Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Fellowship of Fandoms podcast. They call me Strider, and here with me, I have two very cool dudes. First of all, we have Shiv. Good evening, sir. How's it going?
Hello. It's doing pretty good. How you doing on this fine Sunday night for you?
Yeah, it is Sunday night for me. I'm warm. That's why I have two fans just like pointing at me and just like on full spin. So yeah, it's all good. Yeah, and on the other side, we have Web Crawler. How are you?
Hi. Hey, how's it going, guys? Yeah, no, it's just trying to keep cool in this crazy heat wave we've got going.
Yeah, that's kind of like sensing the theme. Okay, so yeah, welcome to everybody who's here with us. We are continuing tonight our hopefully long-term series that will maybe be continued again in a couple of years from now. The rewatch of the Wheel of Time show. As you all who are listening to this probably know, the Wheel of Time has been cancelled, which is a very unfortunate decision on the side of, I guess, mostly Amazon. So far, they have not actually come out. Neither Amazon nor Sony have actually gone out and said, yep, the show is canceled. This is what's happening. We actually do not still know what is like the actual current state of this show. There have been some, I mean, we know it has been canceled, but we don't know if Sony completely gave up on it or are they trying to do something? There were some hints from the showrunner, and like secondhand information and so on. So it's hard to understand what's happening. But yeah, we do not know we do not know the current state of the show. We do not know if there is still hope to save it. However, we are here. One of the reasons why we are here is that we are doing this. We want to help the Save Wheel of Time campaign. It has garnered almost 200,000 signatures so far. The petition, there has been a surge, and it has been going on for weeks now at this point, of fan content. Campaign has been going on for a long time. They have rented billboards in front of Sony, in front of Apple, in front of Amazon. They have rented airplanes to fly over LA, where they have like a tag of Save Wheel of Time. So yeah, it's a big thing going on, and we want to help contribute to this. So that is why we're here. In the previous episode, we have talked about episodes 1 and 2 of season 1, because we have started from the beginning. So you are welcome to join us for a rewatch. Yeah, we are kind of midway through season 1, and honestly, it has been very hard containing myself to not just binge the whole thing, because I want to watch it ideally just as we are about to record, even though I'm actually almost at the end of season 1. But yeah, so with this, I'm just gonna hand it over to my good friend Shiv and ask him, what did you think of episodes 3 and 4 so far?
Yeah, I'm still engaged, still liking it. I guess I could dive into kind of my favorite scene for episode 3. It was actually the opening. I really like how they depicted
Nynaeve.
Nynaeve. One day I'll get these pronunciations right. When she escapes from the Trolloc and kind of dives into the sacred pool. I thought they were going to do like the standard movie trope where like she's just hiding in water. They're not going to check there. And they kind of built the suspense of having the Trolloc actually go into the water and like stab around. And I thought it did a really good job of building that tension. So I thought it was a great way to start the episode. Yeah. So that was my favorite scene, I would say, from episode 3.
All right. That was certainly interesting. Yeah, you're right. That was an interesting scene. It's interesting that they didn't fall into the trope of, they're not going to check in the water. And they did. However, Nynaeve has managed to persevere. And yeah, we'll get back to that later then. Web, hi once again, and thank you for being with us. Do you want to tell us, maybe first, before I ask you about episode 3, what's your background with Wheel of Time?
Yeah, sure. No, absolutely. I've never read the books. I first found out about the show back in 2021 when season 1 came out, and it looked pretty interesting from the trailers, so I decided to check it out. And that's when I first watched season 1, and I really liked it. Didn't really know the lore, had no idea how to pronounce these characters' names either. But yeah, it was an interesting season 1 for me to watch, and then just kept on with the show since then.
All right. So basically, you're kind of like us. You're a show fan for now, at least, as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty much a show only fan. I still haven't started reading the books. I did get the audio book that's narrated by Rosamund Pike, who plays Moiraine.
Oh, yeah?
I just haven't started it yet. Hoping to put some time in to start that maybe on my morning commute. We'll see.
All right, fair enough. Okay, well, what did you think of episode 3? Because I think you rewatched it basically today. So, what's your opinion of it? Like, how are you liking the story so far? Is it different? Having already seen the show, I guess at least once. Do you like it more or less? Or like what's the level of your enjoyment on this rewatch? Is it higher or lower than the first time?
I mean, this is going to be the third time I'm rewatching it, but now that I'm more familiar with the lore within the context of the show, going back and watching previous episodes, there's little things that click that I really like. Speaking of the cold open, how you said, they didn't do that trope of the person hiding in the water and then the monster going away. It's funny because that's literally what happens in like season 1 of The Rings of Power when Theo hides in the water. So there is other shows that have still maintained that trope. But no, I really liked that opening because I think within the context of the show, this is like the first episode where we really get to know who Nynaeve Almira is. Before that, she's just sort of the healer that's kind of training Egwene. But now you kind of get a sense of where she was in all this and, how she feels protective about these kids. So yeah, that opening for me, seeing her perspective of what happened during the Trolloc attack during Beltane, that was really good. And the overall episode, I think, after the first two, it really starts to open up the world. I like how they separated the characters, Rand and Mat, Nynaeve and Lan Moiraine, and then you got Perrin and Egwene. And then using that, they're sort of expanding into the world and doing a little bit of world building this episode, which is I think a good way to go about it, to really introduce an audience like me to the larger Wheel of Time world.
Well said. Yeah, I think that's a great point. I cannot completely remember what was my impression at this point of the show. I was like, okay, fine. Like, I don't know. I think I was. It was also a very interesting time because I just moved to Germany like a few months before that. So maybe my head wasn't in the proper headspace or something. I mean, I was enjoying the show, but I wasn't like super impressed. But on my this is my second time watching season 1. Now I actually really appreciate it, and I think what you said, like, that by splitting the group, the story gives you a chance to explore this world, to learn more about it. Because if you want to compare, because we did this in the previous episode of the podcast with the Lord of the Rings, the breaking of the Fellowship, it happens at the end of, like, at the third way through the book. Obviously, the Wheel of Time series is also way longer than the Lord of the Rings, but still, it's interesting that actually fairly early after they leave their equivalent of the Shire, they actually get split up rather fast. I don't know at which point, how far into book 1 this happens in book 1. But yeah, I think that's an interesting point. Shiv, what about you? How are you following these split journeys of this little fellowship over there?
Well, besides mispronouncing names right now, I think it's digestible, at least at the current level of factions, I guess. Because we got Nynaeve kind of by herself at the beginning, right? She meets up with Nynaeve meets up with Lan and Moraine. You have the Mat and Rand storyline, right? And Perrin and Egwene have their own. So there's like 3 stories in episode 3, it sounds like, from what I remember.
Pretty much.
I'm trying to remember. I don't know, jumping in ranking episode 3 of the storylines that kept me the most engaged, I'd have to say it probably was the Rand and Mat storyline.
Yeah.
That one, they seem to do a lot in this episode, from, going down the path. I think is it called Breen Spring is where they were.
Something along that. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Breen Spring. The Four Kings Inn is where they stop. It's where the innkeeper they meet is Dana.
Shifty innkeeper. Can't trust the innkeepers.
I was actually surprised by that the first time I watched it. Like, I genuinely thought she was just a good person until the twist at the end. And I was like, oh my god, I can't believe she's a dark friend.
Yeah,
they did a good job of like hiding that in the episode. Like, it was a total shock for me too.
Especially when they were like, oh, I tried looking like her, because she was like trying to look like Egwene, and I was like, oh my god, yeah, like it just hit me. That's why she looks so familiar. I was like, that's a well done twist in a single episode.
It was.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it as well in on this rewatch. But I do remember I did, before she says this, about like, I don't know, a couple of her lines before that, I was like, wait, I think she's kind of asking, like, she asked like one question too many. There's also a point where Rand realizes it, but I feel like it's structured in such a way that the viewer or the reader, there's a chance that you can also pick up earlier. And I don't know, I think I was traumatized from another TV show I was watching at the time, so I was like very suspicious of everybody. I think I was watching The Boys just before real time or something, so I was like, trust no one or something. So I was like, the moment she asked like a second question in a row that Randy Gross was like, oh no, I don't think this is gonna be good. And
I thought she
I
was
was
just
like,
like
yeah,
kind
okay.
of real.
Yeah, right. I thought like it's maybe she's just interested. She she has her tavern. Why would she, like? But then, yeah, here we go. That was a good time. But before that, let me see if I can find a photo here. We meet this very cool dude that I cannot find a photo. Tom Marilyn. Webb, what do you think of Tom Marilyn?
I mean, I like his intro. He just starts by singing. Very, very interesting singing voice. I wouldn't have picked him as a Glee man, but I did like the song that he was singing. And, rewatching it the second and third time around, you kind of get the sense that he knows who he's talking to, right? Because the song that he sings is so obviously about like the dragon and the breaking of the world. And so I don't think it was accidental or coincidental. And so that was an interesting choice for them to make to notice on rewatches. But he's an awesome character. I like how he noticed the pickpocket and then he tested the two boys to see if they were willing to give him a donation for the Glee men. And of course, Matt and Rand were just cheapskates, and they're like, no.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, like what you said on the rewatch, I feel like on a rewatch this show gets even better because you can pick up on all these clues. Because this is Shiv's first time watching the show, so he has the pleasure of experiencing all of this as we go, and then we can we can have this discussion. So we have to be careful not to spoil things for him. But yeah, this song is terrific, and especially in the second viewing, it's like, okay, this is what it's okay, cool.
He also gives me like Strider vibes, like when Strider meets the hobbits at the tavern. There's a similar energy to him, and I really like that.
I was going to ask this: how would you guys compare this? And not necessarily like how cool it is or whatever. Just like I was going to ask you, like, do you get the same vibe? Because it does feel like this, mysterious stranger that knows a lot about things. They meet him in the tavern, and then they kind of go off, and then they gets and then this guy saves them from this very Nazgul like thing.
The Fade, yeah.
Shiv, how do you feel about Tom Marilyn? How cool is he on a scale of 1 to 10?
Man, I feel like I must have misinterpreted him early on, because I guess him like stealing from the boys at the beginning kind of did it for me. I was like, oh, I don't know. Did I misinterpret that scene? Didn't he like take his
No, he
coins?
He did take.
Yeah. So I'd say he's less noble than Aragorn. I don't think Aragorn ever stole from people. Someone comes at me in the book, actually in the appendices.
He did.
Yes,
back though.
That's true. He did get it back. So yeah, I guess because that happened, it kind of added mistrust to me. So I might have been just like, oh, I don't trust this guy, and I never thought of him in like the Aragorn lens. And maybe he has a Strider particularly, yeah. So yeah, I didn't know that maybe it's a red herring and he's actually a noble guy, but I haven't seen enough of him yet to trust him. One thing I haven't read spoilers, but I clicked on his name, and it says he was born in the capital city of Andor, spelt the same way as the Star Wars show. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if we talked about that in the last episode, but look at that. We have a connection to the Star Wars universe too. It's from Andor.
Do you want to hear another connection? I don't know if it's mind-blowing necessarily, but this word doesn't only appear in Wheel of Time or in Star Wars. It also, and I'm sure it appears somewhere else as well, but also that is the Adunaic, so that's the language of Numenor. That is the name of Numenor in Adunaic. They call it Andor, which means the land of gift. So there we go. There's like at least a triple fandom crossover right there. Spelled the same, pronounced the same. There we go.
And
that's awesome.
It's a good word.
So yeah, continue, please.
Yeah, I mean, like in this picture, he kind of looks like Vigo too, doesn't he?
I mean, he definitely has this like gruff vibe, like for sure, like a wanderer, which he is. Like the Glee men are, and again, for everybody listening to this that actually read the books, I know slightly more than an average showrunner. But I definitely do not come anywhere close because I haven't read the books. But as far as I know, Gleemen are actually, they're basically a bard, like wandering bards. Mm-hmm. That's just how they're called. They're like bringing the glee, I guess. These wanderers who are very like, I think they're like literally like, I mean, except the fact that they don't cast spells, but they're basically the bards from like the D&D or something. Like they're wanderers who know a lot about things, about the world. They are not just like a wandering artist. They're like a bit more than this. I don't know if there's like
Yeah.
an organization or something. Perhaps don't spoil it for us in the comments, or you can. But I feel like, yeah, there's like, no, they're not rangers. They're not like on such a level, but they're kind of like wandering around. And I don't know if they're all benevolent, but I definitely think that they have kind of like a positive role.
Yeah, they're
And
like Gildor from The Lord of the Rings. It's a wandering singing group, but they happen to hear things as they wander around, so they know a lot about things that are going on.
yeah, I guess that could be a solid, like a crossover between a Gildor and the Ranger. But yeah, anyway, so we can move on to the next bit that's actually kind of scary. So Matt has been having these moments where the dagger is escalating. His kind of
Frodo
cursed
much?
blade. Yeah, but like in a different way. There's a lot of these like similar things, but like there's always like a twist to it, which is pretty cool and does make the show actually fairly, I mean, the story obviously original enough that you can be like, okay, it's definitely inspired by Fellowship of the Ring. We know this. The author said it himself, but it's also fine because it is building a thing of its own. So yeah, we had that scene where Matt is, or I guess was Rand dreaming actually. It's been a while since I saw it. I think Rand was getting afraid that something would happen with Matt. He wakes up, or like Tom Merlin wakes him up, and Matt is missing. And since they've been sleeping in the barn of this family, they go into the house to check. And the family has been actually pretty nice. And there they find, well, Matt. I'm going to get the picture out in a second. We find Matt there doing this and staring somewhere on like the attic of the house with the family slaughtered like in front of him. And yeah, I'm curious on your thoughts. Let's go with Shiv first. How did you interpret this scene?
Yeah, I feel like I missed something because we're going to talk about the next episode soon, but it seems like this was like totally brushed off. There's a chance I missed some important dialogue or something, but how can you act like nothing happened after the way I interpret it, he murdered an entire family? Did they try to spin it like it was the Fade that did it and he was trying to protect them? Or is that how Rand might have interpreted it?
What did you think? Finish and then let's go to that.
This scene is from episode 4. I mean, if you go back to episode 2, when he first gets that dagger, there's a real focus on like, you know, the location that they got the dagger, Shatter Loghain. You know, don't take. It's a fantasy trope. Don't take cursed objects from cursed cities. It's like rule number 1 in fantasy, right? And he broke it, so he ended up taking this dagger from this cursed city, and of course, the dagger is affecting him. And then I think before this scene, he throws up when they're like cleaning up the barn. And you know, there's moments throughout episodes 3 and 4 where Rand is like, "Are you okay, Matt? Like, why are you being like this?" You know, there's that one scene where he's holding the dagger behind his back when the farmer like finds them trying to enter the barn. And so to me, they really did set up like the dagger was like possessed. So I thought when I saw that clip, when I saw that scene with him holding the dagger in the house, I thought the dagger had like possessed him to kill the family. That's what I thought. Like in this scene, I thought like the dagger had possessed him until he started talking and started pointing that way. And so I thought this was a really well done scene again, because it's like it's playing with your expectations a bit, but then twisting it right at the end to get to the main point.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. That there's a lot of these little twists that do not that are absolutely earned. Like they make sense within the story, but obviously you cannot predict them until okay, this is what happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I do agree that it's quite well done actually. I do have to say though we did, and that's my fault, I did skip over the dark friend, but I mean we can just maybe quickly say, I'll just quickly mention that Tom saved Matt and Rand when they were fleeing the tavern. Tom saved them. The one interesting scene though in this whole turn of events was so when the tavern lady captured Matt, she put him in a room that she said that's basically soundproof. it's hard to no one's gonna hear them there. Which in hindsight obviously is that's an interesting thing. Why are you putting them in this room? But obviously you're not gonna think anything about it the first time you're watching it, unless you're a very suspicious person or very in love with crime novels. And then she says, I lock these doors, not 10 men of your size could knock them down. And what does Matt proceed to do? Not Matt, sorry, Rand. He knocks them down. So that was an interesting moment as well, which I guess we'll see what happens there afterwards. But anyway, Tom saves them. Then he continues to travel with them. And before they actually also leave the village, and I'm going even further in the past, there's also a scene between him and Matt where he actually has this moment watching this dead Aiel, this red-headed warrior of this special race of the Aiel warriors. Matt came back to rob this person because this corpse was hanging, or was it like imprisoned? And they kind of bond over it, and that's where Tom kind of starts speaking with Matt a little bit. It actually gives him back the money that he took from them, or that that pickpocket took. So then, fast forward, they have been traveling together. They went to this family's house, and this whole thing happens with the Fade, and they leave. And again, no spoilers here, but we gotta be careful. This is Shiv's first time watching this, but yeah, they leave, and Tom is left to deal with the Fade. Yeah, it's a fun little turn of events. But yeah, do we have any maybe final comments on this phase of their journey, or shall we maybe move to somebody else?
I think what I liked about the scene that you mentioned with the iron door is that I think that might have been the first time we saw Rand really show any kind of power. Because the whole setup of that scene is that, this door is too strong for you to break open. And then he does it. And so that was really interesting. I was like, okay, so because there's this whole thing in the first few episodes. Who's the dragon? And
and there's hints for all of them, so we do not know at this point. Like, you're exactly right. Like, it's like, everybody's giving some hints here.
Yeah, so that was a big hint at that moment for Rand. I liked that. I was like, oh, okay, because I didn't know who the dragon was, and so I was like, oh, okay, cool. So maybe it's him, maybe it's Matt.
Rand did the reverse Hodor.
Yeah,
instead of holding the door, he broke the door.
Just like the dragon breaks the world.
But I really like it. Like, I knew going in who it is, but I really enjoy how the show is keeping us on our toes. Like, just I think there's also a lore bit that I know some people from the show have had an issue with. I think I won't mention it yet because I want to keep Shiv in complete suspense until we get to the point where we know who the dragon is. Is it a he or a she or something? But I know that there was this little bit of lore thing where the Aes Sedai were like, oh, it could be na, and it's not like this in the books, but I feel like it helps the show watchers only to
have an interest in all these characters.
And I feel like it gives this extra, like, okay, so who is it? Okay, it's probably not Nynaeve because it's mentioned at some point. Okay, yeah, she's too old, but okay, it's one of these four. It's just an interesting little thing, and I really do enjoy that. I think the show does this pretty well.
Does the show let us know who the dragon is in the 3 seasons?
We'll learn. Yeah, you will definitely learn. I would say in season 1-ish, maybe beginning of season 2 or so. I don't want to be more specific than this, but like, it gets revealed.
Okay. It does, but it's done in a way that makes sense. And I mean, these 2 episodes also have other hints for other characters. Like, if we jump to the Perrin and Egwene's story, there's that moment when Egwene makes the fire happen, and then that scene right there, exactly. Like right before that, Egwene helps Perrin get the fire going, so you see a little bit of her power there. And then I think after this scene is when Perrin has that dream about the wolves and whatnot, so you get a sense of that from there as well. So they're definitely playing with it in these first few episodes for the audience. And I think, as someone who had no idea what was happening, I enjoyed it. I really did like it.
Yeah, I fully agree with this. I mean, so as I said, I knew who it was because I have a very good friend who is a big fan of the books. So I spoke with him a lot about the general lore of this. So I knew who he was, but it was like, because I saw the chat on like, oh my god, are they changing this? Like, what is this? Like, are they changing the lore? Like, is it going to be the person that's supposed to be, or is it going to be? Well, what are they doing here? And I was like, since I know nothing. I mean, I guess they could be, because if the fans who read the books are this concerned, like, maybe I do not know what I think I know. It's and then the season one really does a great job of balancing this. But yeah, we have this here in this particular storyline. So we have Perrin and Egwene wandering around on their own, and they are cold, hungry, tired, exhausted, afraid probably, and they wander into the Thinkers. And they ask them. There's this odd moment I actually forgot about when they meet them in the woods. There's like a poem of sorts that is recited by. I forgot her name, the lady, one of the lady leading the Thinkers. She asked them, like, do you know of this song? Do you have the song or something? I thought that was a very cool little nod to like the deeper lore, but we don't know more about it for now. But I want to ask Shiv, how are you seeing these people? What was your impression of them? And the fact that they follow what is called the way of the leaf,
Pacifist.
they renounced violence. So yeah, what was your reading of this? How did you feel about it? The introduction, the vibe, the whole thing.
Yeah, they reminded me of a show on HBO called Station 11. It's I think it's only one season. I highly recommend it. Yeah, slight tangent in this podcast. Station 11, it was released. It was a book, I believe, that came out pre-pandemic, so before COVID and all that happened. But by the time production was done, it was released in the thick of the pandemic. The story is about a pandemic and post-apocalyptic worlds, and ironically, how the COVID played out is kind of the um, entryway of the virus taking over the world. Like it came from China and like all this stuff. And in this case, it kind of turned. I don't think it was zombies. It kind of just killed off a bunch of people, and it's kind of more about like similar to like how The Walking Dead ends up if you can't trust humans and blah blah blah. It's a lot of that. But long story short, the story follows a young girl who pre-pandemic was like an actress on Broadway or something like that, and it's like a coming of age tale and all that post-apocalyptic world. And she finds a traveling circus, I guess you can call it, but it's a traveling, basically people who put on plays and stuff for people and play music for them, and they travel to different groups that survived. And long story short, the Tinkers kind of reminded me of that, how they're like pacifists. They try not to deal with the violence of all the kind of clashes that you see and stealing and stuff.
Went.
Yeah, so it's a pretty interesting show, and not many people's heard of it. So check it out if you're into post-apocalyptic stuff. It's kind of artsy, kind of depressing, but yeah, I highly recommend. Yeah, so Tinkers, it reminds me of that. They're traveling people. They try to stay out of the wars. They try to stay out of violence, and yeah, they kind of have that artsy vibe to them too. Yeah, so I don't know. Is this going to be like a Lord of the Rings thing where like the hobbits, strength comes from unlikely people, like the Tinkers end up saving the world?
So I'll say this. Because I watched the first season when it came out, and then I watched season 2 and 3 this year. I finished season 2 before season 3 came out. So I forgot about these guys, and I there are some mentions of things. So I'll just say, do not forget them. I mean, but also you will not, because we will watch this back to back to back, so it will be fine. But I actually completely forgot about this, and actually in season 3 specifically, there's this huge moment where like the lore of the worlds like just opens completely in front of you. It's like, wow, crazy. And actually it's the same thing in the books as far as I know. I think in the book 3 that's what the season 3 covered, and there's this like particular moment, event, episode, and so on, where there's just this, we just like your eyes actually open and you realize how huge the world is. And these guys are one small piece of a very important whole later on. But I'll just leave it right there.
Interesting.
Yeah, like they do not come up for a while, but they will at some point, and it's going to be really cool. I'll promise you that. But yeah, what about you, Web? Do you enjoy their portrayal? Like, I found them slightly unimpressive, maybe on my first watch, but now I actually really appreciate. So, how's your rewatch? What do you get from them? How do you view them now on the rewatch? Like, do you appreciate them more?
Well,
And
I
again,
mean,
we have to keep the spoilers away from Shiv.
of course, yes. I mean, the first time I saw them, I liked them because I like, roving bands of people. Like it adds more to the story. Like, there's this traveling group, they know things, they've seen things, and there's an opportunity to do a lot of like expositional world building dialogue through them. So I like that vibe. I like how they ended up explaining their philosophy in episode 4 of nonviolence, and then there's that one scene between Perrin and I think her name is Isla, the lady, where she talks about how she lost her daughter, and that's how she got into the Way of the Leaf. And I thought that was really poignant. And through episode 3 and 4, there's this idea of what the wheel is and the philosophy of the wheel. And there's that thing that the barkeep, the dark friend Dana, tells about how the Dark One wants the dragon to break the wheel to free them from this circle of life and death and pain and struggle. And then you compare it to the Tuathan or the Tinkers here, who see that cycle as natural. So I really liked the contrast that they set up in the episode between the two views. So I really enjoyed them the first time around. I enjoy them even more the second time around, knowing how important they become. So yeah.
That is well said, and I like that you also mentioned episode 4 because I think we can maybe just wrap up the whole journey of this group. Maybe we can go through the storyline of Egwene and Perrin until they reach Tarvalon in the 4th episode. So what happens is they stick around there, and we have this cool discussion that you mentioned. We learn more about this. We learn about that lady's daughter, the mother of that guy. I'm bad with the names, and we see that they really embrace Perrin and Egwene, and they keep mentioning and referencing some things. And we can also see that Perrin is struggling actually quite a lot with what has happened in his past, the fact that he has killed his wife. And then as their traveling keeps going, and we see that, and I really have to say one more time, we said it in the previous episode, I really appreciate that we get a lot of traveling because that does bring life to the world, and that's something that season 1 of Rings of Power was really struggling with. People just kept jumping all over the map. Like
Fast
today,
travel.
I'm in Italy, and next day I'm in Norway, across the continent. It's crazy. So it's really good that this has happened. And in then episode 4, we pump into these guys again, and this dude, Child Walda, the creepiest SOB in the show. Like this guy. Shiv, or maybe we can start. Maybe we can go with Web. What's your opinion of the White Cloaks? But White Cloaks so far, so up until to this point in the story, not anything that happens later.
Well, I don't think episode 3 or 4 are they? I think they show up in episode 5, but yeah, no, I like the White Cloaks. They're fanatics, basically. They're very dedicated fanatics. Decided to the show with him, killing Aes Sedai, basically. It's pretty menacing. The first few episodes, they kind of set up the Aes Sedai as like these really powerful sort of channelers, magicians that people can't be beat, right? And then you see this guy, and he's just like captured one, killed them, and then you see like his chain of Aes Sedai rings, and you're like, oh, he's a really big deal. That's pretty amazing. So that was a fantastic intro for him. But yeah, like compared to the Way of the Leaf, like pretty much opposites. These guys are very violent. They have a very specific and focused mission. Whereas the Way of Leaf, they're just like jolly traveling people trying to enjoy their lives.
Yeah, I noticed that I keep jumping to episode 5 because I already went through episode 6 as well. Yeah, you're right, but I still wanted to point out this contrast between the Way of the Leaf and these guys that we actually meet in episode 5. So I guess we'll get to that in the next episode of the podcast. But then we can, I think, or Shiv, unless you have something here to say, we can move to the Nynaeve, Lan, Moiraine group if you want.
Sure, yeah. I don't have anything else to say. I look forward to seeing what the White Cloaks do in the next couple of episodes. Sounds like you guys are alluding to some more craziness with that character, so can't wait. Yeah, I'm trying to look
It's
up. I'm trying to look up that actor right now. So his name's Abdul Salis. I'm trying to see what he's been in because I feel like he plays such a good villain that he must be another. Let's see. Oh, apparently, he's in the new F1 movie that's coming out, or if that came out. Nice.
he's definitely playing a terrific villain for sure.
Yeah, I'll have to look through his.
He's awful. But I mean, we'll get to him in episode 5, in like the next episode of the podcast more. That's my bad because I skipped a bit too much. But I want to ask you here: does this scene look familiar? So Nynaeve,
A ranger cut off his
lands in
guard.
a ranger caught off his guard, indeed. So yeah, we've been doing this thing where the previous episode where we were just the Lord of the Rings reference, the Lord of the Rings reference, the Lord of the Rings reference, and this was definitely one way to end the previous episode. So yeah, we have Nynaeve, and then we learn what we talked about earlier, that she survived the Trolloc attack, and then she gets reunited with Lan and Moiraine, and she is very intent on making them bring her as soon as humanly possible to her friends. She's very adamant about it. She's very angry. I guess that's the main emotion there. And there's this whole thing between her and Lan where they're kind of like butting heads. And let me see if I can find the photo. I think this is a pretty good one where Nynaeve is just tied to a tree with her mouth gagged, and it's like, come on. So yeah, Shiv, how do you like the whole dynamic here that's going on, and the fact that, and let's just a short reminder, Moiraine has been wounded by a Trolloc, I guess, way back in like at the beginning of the season, because we are actually talking now about the midway point of it. So yeah, what's your view of this whole dynamic here?
If I remember right, too, it seems like she was searching for a plant to help heal her. Maybe some kingsfoil, perhaps?
Kingsfoil would probably help a lot with this, not gonna lie.
Yeah, and another tangent real quick. Kingsfoil was a band that Frankie Muniz once drummed for.
That is a fun fact.
I wonder if he named it after it's just a coincidence.
Sadly, I never looked into it. I just assumed. I feel like, it had to have been a Lord of the Rings.
It's such a specific thing. Like, when do you hear the word foil ever?
That's
and
true.
then Kingsfoil.
Yeah.
I feel like that must be an intentional thing. That's a crazy fun fact. There we go.
And now he drives NASCAR or whatever Frankie Muniz does. But but yeah, the kind of trio dynamic, it's pretty hilarious. Kind of like subtle jealousies going on between them, which is nice.
Yeah, it's like poor Moiraine's like on her deathbed, almost dying, and then it's like, wait, are Lan and kind of flirting? Like they got some energy. Like it's really funny, but it's also really well done, I think, to like set up these characters, Lan and Nynaeve.
And it's like and the bond too, man. What are they called? Sorry. So you have the Aes Sedai, right? And then the men that
the
warders. There is kind of like a strange relationship between them because it's kind of like the in-office romance kind of thing. It's like, I don't know, I get that vibe a bit when watching the show. It's like, is it just pure love, or is there a little bit of like lust in there? Is the show trying to do that? Am I reading in too much into the situation?
I think that's a great question that gets revealed fairly soon, I guess. So, but I really like, and especially now on the rewatch, I actually really enjoy looking again and like understanding more of these little hints and like these little lore bits that they are dropping as they go on how this relationship works between Aes Sedai and a warder. And I think that's a good question that we will not answer today. We'll let you simmer still on this. There's a lot of things you gotta simmer on for a while. I guess we'll in a couple of weeks all will be revealed, maybe even less.
Nice.
But yeah, you were gonna say something?
No, not me at least.
Okay, then Web, what's your take on this? Like, I guess it's even more amusing probably on a rewatch to look at all of them the way they are relating to each other at the moment.
Yeah, no, I really like all the, like, especially when Lan and Moiraine and Nynaeve run into Liandrin and the other Aes Sedai near the end of episode 3 and episode 4. When you get to see how like different Aes Sedai have like different relationships with their warders, it really kind of sort of expands the world a bit. Like there's that one scene in episode 4 where I think his name is Steppen, and I can't remember the green Aes Sedai, the one that was talking to.
Morena?
Yeah, that one. They're having that conversation about Moiraine and Lan, and they're like, "Can you imagine this scene? Exactly, this scene right here. Well, can you imagine their dinners because they don't talk?" And so it's like, oh, okay, so blue Aes Sedai are like this, green Aes Sedai are like that, red Aes Sedai are obviously very aggressive, and like their warders kind of reflect that energy as well. And so that was a really cool moment for me.
Speaking
Yeah,
of the Aes Sedai colors too, I don't know when the books came out and Harry Potter came out and all that, so I don't know if there was any influence.
This is older than Harry Potter, I think.
Older.
It is older, for sure. Yeah.
Interesting. Maybe it's the show influence and the creative. I get like a vibe of like Harry Potter houses with the Aes Sedai, where like I feel like the author might have been moving more towards like the wizard orders of Lord of the Rings, like the blues, the whites, whatever. But I don't know. The show, for some reason, the vibe I get from them is more of like Harry Potter houses, which I don't know. It's probably just me.
That's a good question because I've seen a few quizzes about which Aja are you. I don't know if you guys have done those quizzes, but I did, and
I need to do this.
I would be either a blue or a brown Aja, depending on how I answer the questions.
We'll have to do that for one of the episodes.
We gotta do it for the next one. They all have a certain role. So the blues are like these political, not manipulators, but like they're like into politics and like into monitoring the world, like seeing like the wider picture. The red ones are the ones that hunt the men who can channel because they are nuclear walking bombs. The green ones are the warriors. The yellow ones are the healers, and then we go into others a bit later. So I cannot recall the top of my head, but for now, these are the only ones we see anyway. So they all have a certain role to them, and that's something that kind of gets shown here. And I definitely did not appreciate it fully on my first watch, but now I really like it a lot. And the connection between Steppen and I'm just I was going to say something, but I'll say it when we get to it because I don't want to spoil yet anything. I'm just going to say I really like the actor. Steppen is really cool, and he's even more cool because he plays King Harald in the show Vikings, which is a terrific show, and he was playing a terrific character there. And I was very excited to see him here. But yeah, so we meet them, and we meet this cool lady. So Shiv, your thoughts on
this might be a bad comparison, but she kind of reminds me of the main white cloak we know. Like I wonder if they're like the yin and the yang, because she's pretty brutal the way she hunts the men and all that. So I wonder if there is some kind of parallels there between that white cloak character and her. And it seems like because I haven't seen the seasons yet, I haven't read the book, so I don't know, but I wonder if she's going to be trouble with Moiraine, because she's seems kind of hot-headed. So I don't know if there's any kind of internal strife between the Aes Sedai. But
I mean, in episode 4, there's that one scene where Liandrin, the Red Aja, and Nynaeve are talking, and Liandrin is like, she doesn't like Moiraine much or trust Moiraine. Yeah, this scene because apparently blue Ajas are all spies and they can't be trusted. So like there's already a little bit of a setup of animosity right there that I thought was interesting.
Good catch. I think I missed that already. First watch, not paying attention.
Yeah, but like one day if you hopefully go back to your rewatch before season 4, or earlier, because I know you watched Rings of Power 15 times. It gets so much better. It actually gets even better on a rewatch. I love it. But there's a lot of stuff happening between the different Ajax, and I think it's interesting as it like things get very interesting. This is still that moment where we're not even in Rivendell. We do not realize how big the world is. We do not yet see. We cannot still even try to assume what's the scope of the story. We're still not there yet. This is still all being like little drops of there's this little thing, but like when you open these doors in a couple of episodes, I was like, oh my god, there's so much of this, and then seasons kept escalating.
Nice.
Yeah, I think it is pretty cool, and it's really nice that the show keeps, at least in my opinion, getting better and better on the rewatch. But let's go back to this thing here, because here we have Dragon Reborn captured by the Aes Sedai. Loghain. And if I may say so, this guy looks so cool.
Yeah.
He just looks really cool. That's like he just has like I am the main fantasy character vibe. Like he's just absolutely spot on casting. If this guy was like the if you told me this guy is like the main character, I'd be like, yeah, this guy is the main character. I believe you. I'm trying to get a good
His
photo.
intro in episode 4, the cold opening in episode 4, he's like taking over that kingdom. Was it Galdine? And he was taking over that kingdom, and like he just, gets through all the guards, gets to the king. I was like, what an intro! Like, and he really sold this moment with like the voices whispering at him, but like he's still in control, and like it really made you question, this thing with the Aes Sedai about killing the male channelers, and you're like, oh, like, is he? Maybe he is a dragon. I don't know. I think after that opening scene, I was pretty convinced. I was like, okay, like he's got really strong dragon potential.
And
Sure.
I forgot if this was mentioned in the last podcast we did, but this character has very similar qualities to Desmond Hart in Dune Prophecy, which is you and I covered. And I got that vibes the second this character was introduced. I'm like, oh, is it going to be like that?
That's a great comparison, actually. I like that. But I mean, because obviously they exist in completely different universes and so on. The reasons for everything are different. But I agree that there's actually this vibe to him for sure. That's very interesting. I think it kind of gets revealed, I guess, very soon in this episode, or not yet. No, actually, I think it happens in the next episode. But I guess we'll get to it then in the next episode. What happens next? Yeah, he has this power, and there's a mystery to him. And I just have to say, like, this is the coolest looking person for me in the show. Him and Tom Maryland. I'm not sure which one has like more swag. Just top tier charisma, screen presence. But yeah, we kind of wrap up here, I guess, pretty soon. So yeah, we have these little bits of them, coming together, and then we, I guess, now fully transition into episode 4. I mean, we have already covered a lot of things, but basically Moiraine gets healed by the Aes Sedai, and she's introduced to the imprisoned Loghain, and she let me see if I can find a photo. She helps with keeping him contained. I think the term is like, keeping him like shielded. I think that's the term. So you can keep someone shielded, which means you're kind of like pausing their connection between them and the One Power. And that's what they're doing here. And he's so strong that they have to have 2 of the sisters pushing against him. And I thought that was pretty cool. And then, yeah, they have this whole camp. And as we said, like, there's this conversation between Liandrin and Nynaeve that gets very interesting. And we get, like, these hints for things that come afterwards. But then we also have a little bit of Lan and Nynaeve as well. So this is, I guess, an interesting little pairing here, which we talked about. They have a couple of scenes. It's kind of like they keep like kind of verbal sparring against each other. But also another really cool thing that's happening in this camp is we get to actually learn a bit about the warders, and we get introduced to some of them. We get introduced to Stepan. We get introduced to Alana. That's the other green Ajah lady with 2 warders. So yeah, I was curious, Shiv, what do you think of the warders? And how surprised were you when it turned out that there's a throuple going on between Alana and her 2 boys?
I somehow missed that entire storyline. I guess these episodes are so dense, the lore dropping. I missed that, but hearing that for the first time, I didn't know that they could have multiple warders. And so does that mean she's like the? I was gonna make a joke. Never mind. Wow. And is that is that allowed in the Aes Sedai culture, or is it like something like they have to hide that she has multiple warders?
Well, I think Alana explains to Moiraine in episode 4. Well, like she explains to the audience, but like she talks about it in episode 4. Because there's like this moment between her and Moiraine when they're shielding Loghain, and they talk about like, I guess their Aes Sedai Academy or school days in Tarvalon. And she mentions how, Moiraine mentions that Alana could have been a Blue Ajah. And Alana's like, yeah, but then I wouldn't have I wouldn't get to have two warders. So that's why she chose green. I guess apparently green ones are the ones who get at least two warders.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
I think the reason for this is because they're the warriors, like they're
Yeah.
the actual fighters of the Aes Sedai. So I guess it makes sense that if you're the one going into actual battles, like if you're the one that's the likeliest to be in an open conflict, it makes sense to have two warders to keep your back safe.
Yeah. And I think it's balanced by like the Red Aja, because I don't think the Red Aja have warders.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's the interesting thing again, because with them, they're the ones who hunt men,
Yeah.
and things get revealed as we go in the show. But it also, like, I feel like there's a certain type of women who might, and
So
that
basically what you can say is that
for valid
still,
reasons, that they like to that they have this not desire, but they want to go into the Red Ajah. They have like
yeah.
personal reasons for this.
On,
Then I
yeah.
guess it makes sense that they will not then have warders because they are already against men in a way.
Yeah, so like on average, it's still one warder per Aes Sedai, but it's just the Battle Aja have two or more, and the Red Aja have none. Still works out.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's kind of how it works out in the end. Okay, so we kind of went through Rand, Matt, and Tom's story. So they end up basically the Rand and Matt flee after Tom starts fighting the Fade, and Gwaine and Perrin are traveling with the Thinkers. And then we have this story here, and this story here actually ends with. So we had this backstory where, as Webb said in the beginning of the episode, when Loghain was like, we saw him conquering this one kingdom, and then the king even swears himself to him. And this, we are told that their army dispersed under the attack of Aes Sedai and they captured Loghain, but they actually come back. The Aes Sedai thought they would not be coming back, but they do come back. They attack, and it is at this moment that Loghain manages to kind of free himself, at least for a moment. And there's this whole battle going on outside, and it's quite a tense battle, I think. While also on the inside, we have Loghain trying to break free. And we have this scene where I think these are Stepan's step. He goes in because Karene. So what was happening when the attack happens, I forgot who exactly was channeling, who exactly was shielding Loghain, but he bursts out and he casts this kind of like spears against the Aes Sedai, and Karene, the Stepan's, let me see if I can find her. So this lady here, she protects Liandrin and Moiraine, but she gets hit and she dies. And Stepan feels this, and when he comes in, he tries to go against again, he tries to push through and kill him, and the one power bursts and breaks these axes into like 1,000 pieces. It's almost like throwing a grenade inside, and basically everybody gets very badly wounded. Some people are almost basically dying. And this is at this point, Nynaeve seeing Lan dying in front of her. And she's also, let's not forget this, she's a healer. One of her main duties as the wisdom of her village. She has this moment where she just gets this sudden urge where she just has like this huge surge of white light, and she basically manages to heal everybody in the room. And that's kind of how we end this episode. So, Webb, how do you feel with this scene, given all the context that comes back, that comes in the future? Of course, again, without spoilers, but like, how did you enjoy the scene? Did you enjoy the scene more on this viewing?
I mean, I liked it. Yeah, I definitely liked it more in this viewing because, I noticed a little bit more of like sort of what they're doing with the storytelling, right? Because again, in episode 4, when you're first introduced to Loghain, you see the backstory when he took over the kingdom, and like it leaves you feeling like, oh, he's a very powerful channeler. Like he might just be the dragon potentially. And then there's that conversation that he has with Moiraine, where Moiraine is like, no, you're a good channeler, but you're not the dragon, because the dragon would be like a raging sun. Like the power would be so much more. And so then you're kind of left wondering what that could look like. And then there's this moment where, Nynaeve has been having sort of these communications with Lan and this sort of budding kind of connection. And then in that scene, Lan's throat gets cut along with all these other people, and that emotion pours out. And then you actually see what Moiraine was talking about, right? Like there's just this explosion of channeling energy from Nynaeve as she does like an a heal on everyone. And so I thought, setting that up with like the beginning of the episode to the end of the episode of like, here's who you think is the dragon, but here's what a dragon's power is actually like. And like that was great storytelling. Because in this moment you're so clear as the audience that, oh no, Loghain is definitely not the dragon. It's one of these five. And like this is the moment where you're like, maybe it is Nynaeve. Who knows?
Well said. Absolutely well said. Yeah, and actually one important thing that I really don't want to forget before we go back to you, Shiv, about this, but just like one quick mention. I don't know if it goes the other way as well, but you know how like they channel, like there's like these weaves of magic that happen when someone is channeling. So
Mhm.
the very interesting thing here is the women, I don't know if it goes for men as well the other way, but women cannot see the threads of the power of men. So when they are looking at him and there's no magic around him, that's because the Aes Sedai are looking at him. If there was a male channeler there, but I mean, there are no male channelers for the reasons of them being unstable, but only a male channeler can see the weave, the threads of the weave of the other male channeler. So that's just an
Mhm.
interesting thing that we cannot see him doing stuff, even though he actually is. I mean, there are a couple moments, I guess, maybe where we kind of see something when he throws those black spears or whatever.
Right.
But usually channeling is not seen by the other sex. I don't know if it goes the other way for men. They cannot see the women's web. Do you know this?
No, I mean I heard about it later as the show went on. But yeah, I thought that was interesting because you can't tell in the first few episodes that's what's happening. Like I thought people really could see the weaves that everyone was forming. But in this episode, there's a little bit of that, especially when Loghain like breaks the shield and they show it to the audience. But I didn't pick up on that they couldn't see the opposite gender channel. So that was interesting to learn.
Okay, well then we can go to Shiv, and this is kind of like the last thing we're going to talk about. So basically, this scene that we have on screen, so Nynaeve channeling for the first time, or like the first big time, I guess. And just to save everybody, just doing this mass heal as mass heal wounds, as we have already mentioned. So yeah, Shiv, what was your impression of the scene? Did you think everybody was gonna die, or what were your thoughts here as the scene unfold?
Yeah, I thought this was another good twist and kind of bounce off of web crawler. When this happened, I was like, oh, she's probably the dragon. Based on a comment you said earlier in the podcast about she might be too old to be the dragon. I'm like, oh crap. I guess that right now gives my theories in limbo. But one thing I did like about this episode was like the battle outside. The magic was pretty cool. If I'm remembering, if this was the right episode, there was like magic explosions, I guess, in the woods. That's the way to
Yeah.
describe it.
Yeah.
I thought those looked really cool. I had some feedback in the first episode where I felt like some of the CGI is kind of iffy, but at least whatever, I don't know if it's practical effects they used, but whatever they used in that battle, it looked a lot better. So just want to give props there.
Well said. Yeah, I thought the battle also looked pretty cool as well. Yeah, I mean, I guess there was a lot of important things happening in this episode. I think what you said, like they're very dense. There's a lot of stuff happening. There's a lot of lore. There's a lot of. I feel like the second viewing is definitely so much better because you can appreciate more because you know what to look for. It's just like rewards. I think it's a very rewatchable show. Now, I mean, I feel really, really sad that the show got canceled.
Yeah, no, I
I
agree.
feel worse that I haven't gotten to it back to it again. But I mean, we'll get to it when we get to end season one. The reasons why I think a lot of people got turned off by the show, and yeah, I mean, Web as well. I mean, we'll get Shiv. Shiv will feel the way we feel in a couple of weeks.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
when we get to the ending of the first season, then we can talk about the season one recap and what we think worked, what we think didn't, and maybe why it didn't garner the audience that it probably should have. I mean, for me, like season one, especially the later episodes, there are some issues, but overall, like up and the first couple of episodes, I was enjoying it. I was like, this is a pretty awesome show. I think they're pacing it pretty well. Even the battle scenes, like, yeah, there's a little bit of wonky CGI, but I'm not really too picky about that. It's at the end of the day, it is a TV show. There's only so much you can do. The main point for me is like the writing, the character work. Like, does it all flow well? Does it keep you engaged? And interested and entertained. For me, like this moment, this battle moment where all this chaos and other stuff is happening, and then Nynaeve has this moment, it worked for me. Like it landed well for me.
Well said. Yeah, I think. I mean, and I'll just quickly mention this, and then we will wrap this up now. I think season 1 of Wheel of Time was better until the finish than Rings of Power. Rings of Power was actually, in my opinion, as good throughout, but then the finish was actually pretty strong. The reveal, maybe in case somebody hasn't seen it, I'm gonna say, but the reveal we get at the end of season 1 of Rings of Power was a very strong reveal that kind of saved the whole thing. So I guess maybe that, but we'll get to this. Like we'll maybe do a stream when we finish the podcast. But yeah, I think with this we can wrap up. So I'll just say, Pep, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, we'll be chatting for weeks and weeks about this. So yeah, thank you, and talk to you very soon. And
right.
Shiv as well. Thanks again. We keep doing this. We keep rolling. So yeah, thanks for being around.
Thanks for having me for the Wheel of Time, not the Wheels of Time. The Wheel of Time.
Correct. We are making progress here. All right. Well, with that, thanks for everybody tuning in. All 5 of you have reached the end of this adventurous podcast episode where we went on many tangents, and we just keep doing this. But yeah, say Wheel of Time. Please go sign the petition if you haven't. Though if you've reached this far, you probably have already done this. But yeah, if you haven't, please do it, and we will keep doing this. Maybe we will drop the next episode covering episodes 5 and 6, maybe even a bit earlier. We'll see. But yeah, that's all for tonight. Thank you very, very much. We are Fellowship of Fans, bunch of nerds, and this is not the last thing we're going to be talking about, because we'll probably also talk about Superman and Fantastic Four, and who knows what else, or what other nerdy stuff we're going to get into. But yeah, until then, peace, and talk to you soon.